All right. I believe we are recording. Hopefully no more technology snafus, right? So welcome back to Q&A tonight. We are execution week 3. We're talking about program development, all of the exciting things that are happening, and I'm sure that everyone's brains are on overload or meltdown at this point, because this is usually where this happens. We've had a week or two of all of the technology, which is like super overwhelming and frustrating and annoying to get set up. And then we follow it up with this like gigantic task and topic of program development, which is just like pushing your heads over, I'm sure, to the other side right now. So just know that it is 100% normal to feel overwhelmed, to maybe feel some fear or imposter syndrome coming up at this point in time, to not know like which thing is the thing to tackle because there's all the things to do right now. So hopefully we can just use this call to help to give you some more clarity, some direction in what you want to tackle during the rest of this execution week, so you can feel like you're still moving the business forward and not like bogged down by just so much overwhelm or so much information. So, we'll just dive right in. Anyone that has a question, a burning question on your mind, let's just let you, pipe right up. You can wave your hand at me, or you can use the little hand up within Zoom, and I will just make the rounds. So, Betty, you were on it.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am great. I wrote down a couple of questions, but I'll, round robin it so everybody can get their questions in, so I won't do them all at once. I was watching one of the videos that Kelsa did. I think it's in module 2, and she was saying during your Eureka session,
okay,
that it's unique to each client. And so depending on what they said their problem was that they really wanted to tackle, then, what she would cover would, might be different. And I did the self-paced, right? So I've seen the Eureka session before. And I know that during that session, you guys go over your specific budgeting method. So what I wanted to know was, when she says it's unique, I'm assuming that you go over your budgeting method with every client, regardless of what their problem is. And then there's an additional education element that is unique to that client. Am I understanding that right?
You are 100% right. So yeah, let me kind of clarify, I guess, the idea around that initial session, because I think it can feel overwhelming when you think every session's different. And then you're like, what do I have to go into every session with? So there is a clear like format that we'll follow with clients around, we want to, kind of get them set up with looking at budgeting a little bit different, maybe why what they've done in the past hasn't worked, what systems we can begin to implement and put in place for them, which is going to be the same for almost everyone, right? So whether you're using our method of budgeting, or you're a YNAB person and you want like all of your clients using YNAB and you're going to teach them to do that, or you have your own budget that you want to educate them around and help them to implement, like I would say you want to kind of have that be a consistent thread amongst all of those initial sessions that you have with someone, to give them that overview or a different way of looking at things from what they've done in the past. The portion that's individualized, I would say, it's kind of interwoven throughout, because while I'm presenting something, I've already got their questionnaire. Like I know what pain points they've had, what things they've tried in the past. We're talking about it as I'm kind of walking them through it. So I might be saying like, this is one of the things that we want to implement, but how are you feeling this area of your budget or of your finances is working for you right now, right? So we're like having a dialogue around it as we're going through. So there are some parts that I'm like, you know what, you're doing great there. Let's not change anything in what's happening in that area, because you feel really confident with it. And what I'm hearing, it's not a problem in that particular area. So let's move to the next. So in that way, it is a little bit like fine-tuned, where some things, if it's working, we're not going to say like we need to totally overhaul it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But then the second half of the Eureka session, or that discovery session, whatever you guys are going to call yours, is truly where we're looking at their specific numbers. My apologies, you guys. The dangers of working from home. Big dog, kids in the neighborhood, all of that jazz. So when we're looking at their specific numbers, though, we're talking about what their biggest challenges are and what their biggest problems or goals are. So one person, they might have like a ton of debt. And what we're talking about a lot during the Eureka session is how do we want to strategize tackling the debt, and what order do we want to pay things off, and what way do we want to look at that. Another person might not have any debt at all, but they really want to, you know, I don't know, pay off their house more quickly, or buy their kids cars because they're teenagers and they're going to be driving soon, and they need to be like talked through how to strategize for that and how to save for that particular goal that they're working towards. So I would say that's how it's very like tailored or individualized towards the particular person that you're meeting with, because we're really addressing what's happening in their life. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. And it probably answers one of the questions I had when I was doing self-paced, because I couldn't raise my hand, which was, you were saying like one of your deliverables is like, you know, you're giving them goals or even homework to do. And my thought was like, how do you even know what to give them? You know, everybody's going to be different. So this makes more sense to me, you know, thinking about it. Your homework, their goals are going to be solely based on what they said that they really wanted to focus on. And then you can just add that to the sheet,
exactly,
just based on their unique needs.
Yeah. So like during the Eureka session, I'll even be typing in like along the right-hand column where it's blank, I'll be filling in notes of like, you should, I don't know, if I see their insurance rate is really high, I'm like, you should probably shop your insurance, goal of finding something at this rate, here's some places you can reach out to, or whatever that may be. So I'm like entering those notes in even as we're working through the session. Or you might just go back at the end and like fill in, these are some of the things that we talked about, and this would be a timeline for when you want that to happen. Or if we're talking about paying off debt, we might say we're going to tackle this one first, and the goal is that this is paid off by November 30th, and then you'll move to this one, and the goal is it will be paid off by January 1st, and you're going to be like implementing whatever method that we just talked about during that session. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, that does.
Okay.
I'll let somebody else go. I'll ask my next question.
All right. We'll go around. Who's got the next question? Bobby, I'm calling you out because you said that you don't know where you're at with things right now. So if no one's putting their hands up, I'm just going to start calling on people.
Okay, Jill. Well, I'm still with the technology part. I'm having a difficult time trying to get Acuity to schedule both of my sessions, my 20-minute session, then I have a 2-hour session. And the 20-minute session works fine, but for some reason I'm getting an error message on my 2-hour session. So I spent about 2 days trying to get this thing to work. And it's not working, so I've put a call in to Acuity to see if they can help me with it, because I can't figure it out.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, if you'd reached out to them yet. So what kind of error is it giving you? It's just not, is it even coming up? Is it giving you a link to schedule it, but it's just not going through, or?
It's just telling me that the page will come up, but the message will be, there are no appointment types available for scheduling. And this only occurs when I try to schedule I call it my epiphany session, which is a 2-hour session.
Okay.
It just does not, I can't get it to schedule.
I wonder if there is anything like in the settings. I'm going to try to pull it up and see if I can see it on mine. And if so, I'll share it with you. You can like put some rules in place for your scheduling page. And so I'm wondering if there's something there, Bobby, that's like blocking. Let me see.
It could be, but I don't, like I say, It's the second day, and I'm about burnt out.
Yeah. So like if you go into your availability and you have,
Right.
do you have your hours all set up within the availability of your calendar right now?
Right.
And then I think if you go to like either client scheduling limits, you can like set some rules on it, like don't let the client schedule fewer than 24 hours in advance, or they can't reschedule or cancel more than 48 hours. But you can do like a maximum type of appointments and things like that. So I wonder if there could be something in here, or you can set different hours for certain appointment types. So I wonder if somehow that
Yeah.
session is like blacked out or has some kind of limit where it's not showing available appointment types. You know,
Maybe
like,
it is because I don't know. I think I've tried almost everything, really, Jill, and just said
yeah,
it's probably a button or something I'm missing or something I've got highlighted or whatever, just not allowed me to do it. But so
yeah.
I don't know. I've even canceled it out, set it back up, and it's still. So I'm not sure just
Huh.
what's happening with it.
And you've gone in here, like the client scheduling limits. Have you played with that yet?
I have played with it a
Okay.
few times, and
Hmm.
I just don't know what it is.
Interesting.
I got a headache.
Yeah. I would say, I guess, let Acuity figure it out.
That's what I say. Yeah, I'm tired
Yeah,
with it now.
I know.
Let
I
them
feel
figure it
like,
out. Cause
you know what? It's great to get in there and like tinker with everything. And the technology piece is not my favorite part either, Bobby. Like it takes so much time and energy sometimes just to figure out like the inner workings of a system. And yet like eventually it starts to feel easier and not as complicated the more that you're in there. So on the front end, while you're learning so many different things, it is like one of the biggest pain points, I think, is just the whole technology side. But if it takes more than a day or two, absolutely just call their support, get something set up. They're usually really, really good about hopping in and like fixing it on their end or doing a screen share and showing you how they're fixing it so that you can learn, you know, later how to do it for yourself. So fingers crossed, they can just show you, oh, it was this particular setting, and they'll show you what it is, and you just can roll with it going forward, right?
yeah, I feel the same way. So I sent them a screenshot of the page that I'm getting, so they would have they can see the page that's giving me the error, and just probably something very simple that I just can't figure it out.
You know.
Hey, Jill, and if you don't mind me chiming in,
Yeah,
I've
no,
had
that's
that
fine.
similar issue, and I think you're right, Jill. What I didn't realize is the hours I set for myself. So let's say I opened up, from 4 to 6, and then I wanted people to be able to make a 2-hour appointment, but I also had that I wanted a buffer time of like 30 minutes before and after. It required me to have a 3-hour window available for anyone to book that slot, even though there was 2 hours open, because I didn't have the space for buffer in my
Buffer.
schedule. So I needed to change my hours or realize that they're simply never going to be able to book on a Wednesday if I only have a 2-hour window. Maybe I can book a Q&A on that day, but on Saturdays where I have my schedule opened up for 4 consecutive hours, they can get a 2-hour appointment because of my buffer window. So
Yeah,
that
that's
could
such a
be
good point.
something to think about.
Do you
Okay,
know?
thanks, Betty. I'll take a look at that and see if I can find something there.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you think that you have more than 2 hours of open time, like on your calendar? Or are they in smaller blocks like that?
Yeah, it's more than 2 hours time on
Okay.
those calendar,
Yeah.
but I'll take a look at it again and see. It's just probably something simple that I'm missing that I just can't
I
figure it
know.
out
I'm
right
sure
now.
it is. It's always that way with technology. It's like one simple little change and it's like, oh, now it all works. We
Yeah,
bang our head against the wall for days, right? So,
exactly. Yeah.
Nicole here, can I chime in for a second on the acuity thing?
yeah.
One of the things that I discovered, and maybe this might be part of the problem when I was setting up my calendar for my Uber stuff, is if you have other things on your calendar, that like regular appointments that you have on your calendar, just like, because I have like everything on my calendar. That's like my life. So if you have other things on your calendar and you don't mark it as free, Like if you don't make the availability on the time on the calendar, it will block that time off on your Acuity calendar, even though it's not related to your business, if that makes sense.
If it's linked to your Google Calendar, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I have like 5 different emails, and I have one for my family stuff. I have one for my Uber stuff. I have one for my financial stuff, like my business. And then I have like one for my fitness stuff. And so if I have any of those emails linked to my Acuity and I don't mark it as free, it will mark, like when I would type in, I have a business block that it says rock my business, right? That's just my time that I block out of my calendar to have for my business. But I still wanted to be able to take calls during that time. So I have to mark it as free when I set up that recurring transaction or that recurring calendar event, because if I don't mark it as free, it thinks that I'm blocking that time out of my Acuity calendar and nobody can schedule a call. So if you have anything else on your calendar that you've scheduled for yourself as a reminder or anything, and it doesn't say free, that could be part of why it's telling you that it can't use that. It's just something to watch for, because I did come across that when I was going through the learning curve.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole.
All right. Let's see. I see Jacqueline, you have your hand up. Let's hop over to you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I just had my eyebrows done, so I'm keeping my good webcam off.
Are you a little red and swollen right now?
I'm a little red, yeah. Okay, so following your Eureka session, what are some like typical action steps you might be giving a client, like beyond what you normally send? Like, are there any like special ones? Like, are there common ones that you often have clients do beyond like trying to set up their budget and things like that?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think everyone kind of has the standard things, like you said. So it's like if we're having them open new savings accounts or open a new checking account, if they're starting to use cash, if they, you know, all of those, like, I guess the standard initial things are always on their like checklist of things to do.
Right.
I don't know if there's like absolutely consistent things across the board that I'm recommending for people to do. It really is dependent on what their problems were and what their goals are. Like some of the things that I would say are maybe more common is like shopping insurance, or they're looking for an alternate carrier for their like TV service and they're going to cancel their cable and go switch over to like Netflix or Sling or something like that.
Okay.
So like those are kind of like common things when you see like a higher expense on someone's list. So those tend to get added. So it could be any number of things, just dependent on what their particular expenses are. So maybe it's like, talk to your housekeeper and they're going to go to every other week instead of every week, and you need to have that conversation. And so that's part of your checklist of like things to do over the next month. Or you've had your emergency fund just sitting in a checking account somewhere and not earning any interest. So your job is to like go open a money market account and transfer that money over. I'm trying to think of like any other good.
So here's my question, because I don't want to like overwhelm them, right? So when I see those specific additional steps, I put them in there. But I guess I'm wondering like how many. So I remember when I watched the sample Eureka session that you like just put notes right in there on that. So I know about all of those like little tweaks, but are there like other major steps that you're recommending beyond just like what's specifically on their budget? You know what I mean? Like, give
me an example of what you're giving that you're worried is overwhelm. Like tell me what sort of things you want to give, but you're worried about.
So typically when I'm doing my discovery session, I'm teaching them how to, or I'm suggesting in there that they start opening savings accounts as sinking funds to like work out the whammies and things like that. I'm typically suggesting like switching over to online bill pay if they have a lot of auto pays tied to a debit card. I'm typically suggesting, setting up their budget is like one of the steps. So like organizing all of their bills by their payday and things like that. And so I feel like those major steps are kind of a lot for someone to take on. So I didn't know how many other, like calling to like cancel cable or renegotiate the price, shopping insurance. Like I don't feel like those things are major. I feel like those are like smaller things that maybe aren't like immediate, you know what I mean? Like needs as much as like setting up the budget. I just didn't know if you were doing other things. And then if so, like, are you just sending those in the email, or are you also like putting those in their spreadsheet somewhere, those bigger steps?
So we have an automated email that goes out to everyone. So anyone that hasn't seen that yet, there's an automated email that goes out that kind of like recaps the 3 major big things to start doing like immediately after the Eureka session, which is basically the same for everyone. Name those, but like switch bills over to bill pay and time it with your paycheck, set up your savings account buckets and start saving for all of those miscellaneous random expenses. And then either they're taking out cash or using a spending account for the day-to-day stuff. So that is all part of an automated email that goes to everyone. You guys, as you're starting, like it doesn't even have to be automated. You could just copy and paste and manually send it via your regular email to the client afterwards. That'd be totally acceptable and easy to do if you don't want to like get into all the weeds of automation right away. So that goes out to everyone. The specific things that get added are kind of those other like smaller things, and I just type them right into that worksheet, Jacqueline. And so if there's something that we've talked about during the session, I try to have it be notated on there because we did have a conversation around it, and they're leaving and their heads are so full of information that they're not going to remember any of it. And so I feel like at least I can type it there, and it's not like the urgent things, but it's things for them to consider. And I'll even put some of it underneath a heading of like considerations or things for later or things for down the road. And sometimes I do just put that heading there, and it's the things that are not urgent, but hey, in 3 months you were talking about this change might be coming, and at that time you're going to want to look into XYZ.
Okay. That's what I was wondering, like if you had a specific section on there for the things that maybe aren't tied to like a line item on the worksheet itself, like that's what I was wondering.
So I'll do all of it on the right-hand side of the worksheet. So, you know, the main thing, all of the numbers that they're providing you and all of that, and then to the right is blank space, you know.
Right, okay.
And I'll just put in notes there, and I might put in a heading of things to think about for later, or considerations, or potential hurdles. Like if we talked about something that they're like, I don't know how we're going to overcome this or whatever, like I'll address that underneath the heading of potential hurdles.
Okay.
So that they're like reminded and aware that we did talk about this being possibly a problem area for you. And here's some of the things that we talked about, like thinking about or researching or circling back on or whatever that may be.
Right. Okay. All right. That makes sense. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Betty, I think that your hand was up next.
Hello, I'm back. Okay, so what I wanted to know is, so if we're using your budget system, right? I know that after your Eureka call, like during the Eureka call, you go over the budget, but you don't actually give them your template, right? So you give them instructions on how to set it up for themselves. And of course, if they do coaching, then they would get the real budget. We'd help them set it up. So I looked at the link that takes you to the blog article that has the instructions on how you set that up. If we were using your budget system, how would we communicate how to set that up to them? Would we rewrite a new instructional for them to be able to set it up?
I probably would. It would be weird maybe to be directing them over to our website if you're the one that's coaching them. So I don't think I would give them our link and be like, go check out this other financial coach and what they're doing. So yes, like you could rewrite your own like blog post. If you wanted to do a blog post, you could create just like a handout or a flyer that has an image of it, and you can email that to them. You could put like a blank template of it in the worksheet, and just, if you're fine with sharing something, but having them like fill in their own numbers for it. Like I've seen people do all of them, and I don't know that one is like absolutely better than the other. I mean, even on some occasions, I do give someone the blank one. Like if if I know that like they're not going to be a good fit for coaching, they don't really need additional coaching really, but they just want a way to track it, like I might give them the blank one. It's not like it's filled out, it's all the same. They have to go through all the work and effort of like setting it up for themselves. So I think if you wanted to build something and keep it kind of simple for them, you could certainly share that if you don't want to create your own blog post or flyer or something to give.
Okay. I just wasn't really sure. I was thinking to myself, like, if I was reading this blog article, would I be able to create it visually?
Yeah.
You know, watching the video, it's very clear how to set it up. I don't know that the blog article communicates that as clearly, and I'm afraid that if I don't recreate something that is clear to me, and my client's learning style is very similar, that they will go home and feel stuck and then just stop taking action because they can't figure out how to create this budget. Yeah. And I know part of, you know, them not being able to create the budget is a reason for them to come back and do a program with me. But at the same time, I don't want them to feel like they didn't get anything. And if that budget means a lot to them, being able to do it. I just didn't know how to communicate, you know, what you guys would recommend as far as me communicating those instructions. I'm seeing Bobby's comment about doing an instructional video. I thought about doing that. And maybe for me, that would be a better way for me to learn, is to watch somebody go through and build it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there are other coaches that do like have videos that they include with it and they send that in their follow-up email. I will say this, that oftentimes I don't even show that spreadsheet to clients during the Eureka session.
Okay.
So early on when I first started coaching, like I had been using that budget myself for probably 5 years before I started coaching anyone. And so to me, it was super valuable because I'm like, I use this every single day. I live and breathe this. It's so important to me. And I placed so much value on it to every single client that I met with, that they all like did feel what you're saying, like a little bit irked that they didn't get it, right? Because I was like, this is the most important thing ever. And then the more that I got used to coaching people, I realized that like, it is one tool amongst a bunch of different tools, but really what we're doing in the Eureka session and the clarity that we're giving them and giving them specific numbers and like what accounts they need and all of that, like that alone changes everything for people. It really does. And so it's like they don't even know that spreadsheet exists. You know what I mean? So it's like we place all this value on like, I'm showing it to them and now they're going to be so mad at me that they don't get it. But they literally were super happy 30 seconds ago when they didn't know that this thing existed. And now they're going to be mad because they know it does exist, but we're not giving it to them, right? So it's like we're creating this own like bad dynamic almost by doing that. So half the time I just don't even show it to them. Like I'll say we have our own, you know, signature budgeting system that for ongoing clients, we create it for you and we teach you how to do it. And that's really like all that I say a lot of times.
Okay, I like that approach. I don't like the idea of like, look what you can get. That's how I felt when I was like watching it. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then you were like, oh, we don't give them that. And I was thinking, so I completely understand exactly how the client would feel to be able to be so close to getting something that dynamic and not being able to use it. Although, like you said, I feel like if you just say like, take your budget and just put your paycheck above it. And it's weird. I had used this app that to me, it's my version of like, not bill pay, right? And it's set up where it tells you like, this is your paycheck and here are all the bills that come between this paycheck and this paycheck. So it's right in line with how I'm expecting to teach them the budget. And that's a tool that I tell them to try. I still want them to do the budget, but at least I can say, hey, I've told you to take all your bills and order them in date order. Right. All I want you to do is insert your paycheck between those bills that are due and reorganize them. And then I'm not overcomplicating things. So I think that's where I was trying to think like, how do I tell them to set it up? It'd be easy for me to only have them set it up with me.
Yeah. I've had clients who like simply put in their Google alert and their calendar, like payday, and they list the bills or the savings buckets in their Google calendar that they do on each of those paydays. And that's how they have it organized. And that's totally fine. Like they don't need necessarily the whole spreadsheet to start to implement things and to feel so much better about it. Like some people just have that reminder and that's simple enough for them. It just depends on how complicated things are. So I think we like almost overcomplicate it sometimes by showing them like, oh, but there's so much more, you know, and like, you don't have to at all.
I just wanted to be sure I was, you know, on the right path, because I feel like I'm giving a lot away. You know, I have my version of your income expense thing. I kind of use yours as kind of like a template, and then I'd like OCD'd mine to death with like pretty and branding and stuff like that. So it looks very different than yours, but the idea of like having that note section is there. And then I added another bill pay tab that I'm giving with that one that allows them to put their bills there, and it will automatically, when you put in the pay date, shift it in order for you, so they don't have to figure out.
Fancy. Look at you go.
Yeah, I went on Fiverr and found somebody who could do what I wanted them to do, because I can't do that myself. But I'm giving them both of those things as their takeaways after the Eureka session, and I just didn't want to give any more, because why are they coming to me if I'm giving them everything from, you know, that opening session? It's giving them a lot, but the budget is so important, so I still want them to be able to budget, to feel like it's worth what they are paying is worth, you know, their time.
They're getting so much, they really are. So whatever way you want to deliver that or not deliver it, honestly, you know, you can just say, hey, I have a customized system that I use for people that I work with ongoing. This is something I teach through my programs. And if that's something that you think would help you, this is part of, you know, this is what our coaching program would look like.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cynthia.
Okay. So I had a Q&A. The wife scheduled it. When I called, the husband listened for about 2 minutes and then hopped on and then just went crazy, like blah, 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 like telling me everything. My question has to do with, he owns his own business. I had the script that I'd been practicing for like the soul, and I think I handled it well, but I'm thinking that I probably need to have either a way to know beforehand, because it did kind of throw me off since I'm a beginner. That conversation and switching that gears kind of threw me off. So I'm thinking I probably need to have a script. I don't know if that's something that I can get through you guys, or if I just need to develop myself. And if I have to develop myself, like what components should I include? And this was a person that had scheduled through my website. So through Acuity, do I even want to be asking, like, do you own your own business? So I can like prep my mind for that conversation.
Yeah. Right now, when someone schedules a Q&A through Acuity, do you have any screening questions on the front end, or do they just schedule?
Yes, I have like 3. Like, how did you hear about me? What is your primary concern? So it kind of like, you know, they'll usually put a 1-word thing like direction. What are your qualifications? So that kind of helps me prep and tweak my script a little bit so that I can make sure I'm answering that. But they're very general. So I'm wondering, should I put something about that?
Yeah. Do you want to work with business owners, Cynthia?
Well, I've been watching the videos that Kelsa posted, and over the summer there was a potential to work with one business owner, and she said, yeah, go for it. And she had done a live and had answered some of those questions. That business owner ended up being a real big jerk the first phone call. So I said, no, I can't help you.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm feeling like I didn't even ask specific enough questions about his business. And I think I could probably do it if it was like a one-man show or super small, because I feel like I can get the support from you and Kelsa to walk that road. So since my specialty is going to be variable income, I believe that I will be attracting business owners.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes, but it scares me shitless.
Good. It should.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean,
it scares me, bleep, bleep.
That's real though, Cynthia, because it is a bit scarier. There's more to handle. It's not just the personal side. It's like double, even more, triple the like amount of things to like wrap your arms around oftentimes. And so it should feel scary. Like when you haven't done a lot of coaching in the beginning, it's very natural to feel a little worried about it. So two things. One, that I don't think that we do have a script at all. Like nothing is written out. We can talk about maybe some of the things that you would want to ask a business owner that might be helpful during that initial conversation. But part of it is like, as you're talking to more and working with more, you're going to get a sense for the things that you need to talk to them about.
Okay.
I think in the beginning, like owning it, Cynthia, and just telling him like, I specialize in working with variable income, but I will be completely honest with you that I don't have a ton of experience working with your particular line of business, whatever that is. Like I would maybe word it that way. With your particular line of business, I don't have a ton of experience. I feel that together, or I don't feel that together, we would be able to, wrap our arms around this and make things flow more smoothly and all of that. But if he's like a business owner and he has 12 employees and like, cost of goods and all of these materials and whatever, like that likely is not someone that you're going to want to get your toes in with. So I would just be totally honest up front and just call it out for what it is and like let him know. Like, do you have a follow-up scheduled with him? Were you planning?
Yeah, I do. So we decided that we were both going to just marinate on the conversation, come back next weekend. So I sent a scheduling link to them, and they haven't scheduled yet, but I feel like the conversation overall went really well. He was very kind towards the end. He had calmed down and had thanked me for my time and energy. So but after I hung up, that upon my reflection, I'm like, I don't even know what kind of business he's in. I have no idea what size it is.
I think that's like, if you're making a list of questions to ask a business owner, so tell me what your business is, right? So like top of the list is like, before we get into all the nuts and bolts, like tell me exactly what it is that you do. Do you have any employees, right? Because the more employees they have, the more challenging it's going to be for you as a coach to like get in there and really help to make changes. Like the more employees a business owner has, the more removed they are from managing the finances themselves, is kind of typically the way it works, right? If they have one or two employees, they're probably cutting the check themselves, or they have payroll now that's helping with that, but they're still the one that's overall like managing all of the finances of their business. By the time they have like 5 or 10 employees or whatever, like they've got someone else handling almost everything. Their bookkeeper and their accountant and their payroll, and like they're very hands off with all of the day-to-day financial things that are happening within their business, which is not a good person to coach. Like you might be able to coach them on the personal side of things.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. So sometimes like business owners might just be taking a draw or a salary, and then you could just focus on
on the personal side. And they can likely take some of the things that you've talked about on the personal side and implement it to some extent on the business side, but it starts to get so big and so busy that it's probably like more than most coaches want to get into. That doesn't mean that some don't. Like some coaches go for it, like do the big corporate coaching stuff. Like I don't want to do that. I want to work with like the business owner that is hands-on in their business, figuring out how to grow it themselves, how to make it more profitable, all of that. But it just kind of depends. So I would ask what the business is, how many employees they have, because if they have 0 employees or 1 or 2, it's going to be very easy probably for you to handle. And the more employees there is, it's probably a sign for you, like, especially early on, this probably isn't the right fit, right? Like, as you do more businesses, maybe you'll feel more confident to take on a bit bigger and bigger business. But I would say in the beginning, try to stay where it's like the business owner, or maybe they have like a contracted employee that works part-time for them, or like something that's still very small. Okay.
Yeah, he basically was saying that he wanted me to be as an accountant, his personal finance coach, and his financial planner. And I'm like, I don't really think you're going to find that, buddy. Like those are 3 separate legs.
Yeah.
And I can work with partnerships with those professionals, but
yeah.
Is there such a thing as one person that does all 3 of those things?
I haven't
do your taxes, there
are some like financial planners that have like a group, where they've got like the accountant in their group and they're bringing a coach within the group, but I haven't seen like one person that does like all of those. Doesn't mean it can't happen. Like,
okay, so if things go differently, then maybe I could post and find out if there is somebody that can help him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would ask that. What business do they have? How many employees do they have? How are they paying themselves? Are they taking a regular paycheck? Are they doing random draws? Do they have payroll right now? So those are kind of important questions for business owners. And are they prepared for taxes?
Well, I know he's not prepared for taxes.
Okay. Yeah.
I know for a fact he's not prepared.
Those are the big ones I would say for when you're talking to a business owner that will just help to give you some clarity around it. Does that help?
Yes, I think that helps. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Let's see. Candy. You are, let's see if I can unmute you. There
yes,
you go.
I just had to get past the unmute. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, back to the Eureka session. I haven't watched the video yet. But when you were speaking with Betty about the budget. So I guess I thought that a big part of the Eureka session was going over budgeting.
So it is going over like looking at 1 month and figuring out how much they should be putting to different things in a month, like setting up that budget overall. It is budgeting, but it's not like the forecasting and actually the tracking of things and like all of that. It's like, let's look at what's happening with your money right now and figure out what changes need to be made to it, what categories you need to start saving for that you're not really doing anything with right now, what order you want to tackle your debt if you have debt to pay it off. But it's not like, let's set up an entire year worth of a budget and let's like lay it all out for you. Like, it's not that at all.
Okay, I guess I have a misconception of of time, like I guess if you got started on all that, you could never do that in 2 hours, I guess.
Never ever.
So you just you just give them ideas and things to go, like directions to go with the budget, but you're not going through it with a fine-tooth comb or like drilling down on it specifically.
No, you are going through it with a fine-tooth comb. So like the prep work of it is like really getting them very specific on all of the different expenses that they have in life, more than what they normally would put on their budget. Like most people, when they think of budgeting, they think of all of the recurring bills that they have every single month, and they throw that on their budget and they put in like gas and food or whatever, right? Like kind of the necessities of life, but they're forgetting about like annual fees and when I file taxes and my semi-annual insurance dues and my car registration. And like, we get through all of the like nitty gritty details of all of that during the Eureka session to really help them to prepare for like life going forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you talk about that stuff, but then you don't really like try to plan for it in detail.
I give them the exact dollar amounts of how much they should be saving for every single one of those things every month.
Well, I didn't hear the first part of what you said. I'm sorry.
So we give them the exact dollar amounts of what they should be saving for every single thing that we identify during that session going forward. So they leave knowing all of the right dollar amounts, exactly what they want to be changing, how much per month, every month should they be using towards XYZ.
So are they writing those numbers down? Like, are they making, because essentially then you're building a budget.
It's all in the initial prep work, like worksheet that we have them fill out. And then we make all of the tweaks and changes within that and put all of the notes and everything into that and share it back with them.
Okay. So you're just filling the document, excuse me, the document, you're just adding to it and filling it, and they're taking that and running with it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then if you go on and you do like monthly coaching, then you are basically going to do that for them.
So yeah, so if we do monthly coaching, we're building out like a more robust like budget for them, planning months and months in advance, teaching them how to actually execute and implement all of it. So like going through that process, like we meet with everyone weekly in the beginning simply because it does take that much time and frequency for people to start to really get in the groove of it and start to understand it and have their questions answered in the moment. Like there is no way you could get through all of that in the very first session. There's no way in 2 hours that you could get it all done.
Like you're talking like budget, the whole budget, the everything. Like
yeah.
Okay.
When you watch it, you'll see that
it'll make more sense to me.
It will make more sense, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Jacqueline.
Okay, so I feel like I'm going to be pretty vulnerable here.
Okay.
Hashtag vulnerable. I, for the past like 2 weeks or so, have been feeling super, I don't want to say like insecure, but I think that's probably what it is, in my ability to coach. And I don't know if this is normal for people going through the academy, but I'm having like major imposter syndrome. And even though like I just got a really lovely email from a client last week that told me like how, and she just did my initial session and how much she's loving like my budgeting process and stuff like that. But I just am feeling, and we talked about this the last time you did the Q&A call, Jill, that I more so inform than actually coach. Especially like once we did the lesson 3 content when Kelsey was talking about all the questions she asks and things like that. And so I definitely see like an opportunity to grow, but I guess I feel like right now I need a little bit of coaching from you myself, like how to get through that process.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
no. So thank you for being real first, because I think that that's very hard for people to do, and especially admit in a group of people.
Yeah.
That you're feeling that way and feeling a bit like insecure and, imposter syndrome or whatever it may be. Let me share with you that I still feel that way sometimes. Like there are still days where I'm like, crap, I totally mishandled that situation. Or I think of, I could have totally talked them through XYZ and that would have maybe been like such a bigger aha moment for them. Or like, there are always going to be those times, like always, and so I think as a coach, it's actually a wonderful thing that you're recognizing that you still have room to grow. Like I would certainly hope that any coach that I ever work with is still growing themselves so that they can then help me to also grow, right? Like if we think we know it all, we only have so much to give. Right? Like eventually we're going to run out. So we can't all know it all. And we should all feel a bit uncomfortable sometimes, and hopefully a lot actually. Like, I feel like every time that you start to feel comfortable, it means it's time to start growing some more. Right? So being in the academy, for sure, Jacqueline, like I know that you have gone through self-paced, you've done a lot of this work already, but there's something different about the dynamic of like being with people that are all working through the process together. And there's like a lot of support and a lot of like nerves and frustrations and excitement and anxiety. And it's like all coming together for everyone all at the same time, which can really help to like bring all of those emotions up, I think, for everyone. Right. But it is very, I think, normal that you're feeling that way. And I think, so some of the things, what can you do to overcome it? Because first is just acknowledging this is a normal part of the human existence. Right. And that as you're growing, you're going to feel this, and it's a good thing, right? I'm trying to think, like, so one of the things would be to print out some of those testimonials and feedback from your clients. Like you have had success with people already. And so printing it out and having it maybe on your desk or like, you have the most adorable desk setup. I would get a super cute frame and like frame some of them and just put it on your desk for all of those moments when you're like doubting yourself and second guessing. And like, we so easily forget the amazing impact that we have, and we more naturally latch on to the moment where we're like, I could have said that differently, or I feel like that didn't go so well. And we like marinate on it and run it over and over in our heads, and we forget the person who just was like, you saved my marriage, or you changed my life, or I just paid off this much debt and I've been stressed out about it for the last 20 years. And we totally are like, well, none of that matters. They did that on their own. It wasn't because of me, you know?
Right. Yeah, I know.
So print it out, put it somewhere visible. Mandy Thomas, I love what she said that she did very early on in her coaching, and I think she might still do it, but she has a spreadsheet that she keeps, and every day that she does something that she feels proud of, or was like one step in a positive direction, or she had a good conversation, she logs it, and she literally types every single one of those wins that she has, no matter how small they are. And I think the beautiful thing about that is that she's able to months later look back and be able to appreciate how much she's grown and how far she's come, because the things early on in your business that you consider a win, you begin to recognize later that that's just like innate now. It's just a natural talent that you've developed. Whereas 3 months ago, it was this huge win and it felt so exciting to have hit that milestone. And so it's good for you to really see that you are progressing, that you're doing so many positive things, that you can have this reminder of all of those little things along the way that, like I said, we just kind of like brush to the side, because most of us, I think it's safe to say, are like onward, like what's the next thing? I knocked that one out, and now it's time for the next one and time for the next one. And we don't take a lot of time to really sit in our accomplishments when they're happening, because we're so focused on like the next thing that we have.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I have a file like that even as a teacher, like of notes I've gotten and things like that, even that like I pull out every year when I'm going to bring out my old stuff, and I always go through it, and it always like makes me tear up when I remember these kids and some of the things they write. So I think that was a really smart idea. It's something for me to start now.
Yeah.
Would be good.
Yeah. And, you know, sometimes I think that it is helpful to ask for feedback from the client, right? So we can go for a while sometimes without getting any sort of validation that what we're doing is really helping. And sometimes we do just need to like call it out and be like, I'm curious how you're feeling that our coaching is going right now. Like, what growth have you seen for yourself? Or do you think that this is moving in the direction that you want it to go? Because if it's not, you certainly want to know if there's like a different thing that you need to be focusing on. But also, you would be so surprised that you might feel like nothing's really happening, or it's moving very slowly, or they're not getting the progress that you want, because we can all see it. Like, it's very natural for us to see like how much potential is there, and like, oh, if you could just do this, then you'd be right here. And like, if it was us, we'd be like knocking it out, right? And our clients don't oftentimes move at the speed that we want them to.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you're saying that.
Yeah. And so it makes us doubt that we're doing our job, but this is all new for them. Like, it is scary that they're talking to someone else. They're implementing a whole new system of things. They're breaking years and years of bad behavior. And it takes a while, right? So we have very high expectations for them, and their expectation might just be, I just want a positive balance in my checking account before the next paycheck comes in. And for them, that's like a huge win, right? And so we're telling ourselves like, oh, we should be doing so much more. And they're thinking, I can finally sleep at night.
Right.
So I think it's good just to, when we start feeling that way, just to call it out and say, hey, I'm hoping for some feedback. How do you feel that your coaching is going? Like, what, if you reflect back, like, what growth do you think that you've had so far? Or is this headed in the direction that you want? And, you know, are we on track for hitting the goals that you want? Like, just start calling it out.
Okay.
Because that, like, we get into our own minds and we just like mull things over and turn it into this, you know, bigger problem than it is. And our clients are most of the time very, very, very happy, but we don't know it because we want so much for them, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I actually had that thought this morning while I was getting ready. I was like, maybe I should send out, like, for my clients who are going through like my program as like a new ongoing client, like once a month or maybe every 2 months. So like halfway through the program or something, just a check-in. Like, I would love to know any kind of feedback you have at this point that maybe you don't even like almost sending an email or maybe even like a jot form or a Google form, and like even allowing it to be anonymous if they wanted it to, and saying like, I would just love to know, like, if there's anything you don't feel comfortable saying in our session directly to me that you want me to know about how it's going.
Yeah.
And something like, I don't know. I just thought about doing something like that. Even for the ones who've been with me for a while, like maybe every 2 months, just sending it out and being like, this is the, you know, bi-monthly or quarterly or something like that. Like, feedback call. If you have any feedback you want to share, I would really love to hear how things are going.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Like, what have been your greatest takeaways from coaching over the last 2 months, if you're doing it every 2 months?
Yeah, right.
Or what are areas that you want to focus on for the coming 2 months that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah.
Right. So like framing it that way so that they feel like I can say, this is the thing I really want to work on, if they've been like worried about bringing it up.
Right.
Like, you're sharing a win, and then it's easier for them to say, and I want to start working on this too. Right.
Right. Okay. That's
So,
a great idea. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. Like, I don't know if I'm like so overwhelmed right now because, you know, the school year just started and I feel like I have crossed so much off my to-do list with school because I'm like trying to get it all done now so that I can just really focus in on the academy. And I knew September would be rough. So I'm feeling like behind from stuff in the academy, even though I've already gone through it once and I shouldn't feel, you know what I mean? I have a lot of systems in place, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm an emotional wreck the last 2 weeks. So
yeah. I mean, it's always so funny, I think, and you'll get into like October and you'll probably reflect back and be like, oh, now I know why I felt that way in September, right? It's like, we know it going into it. It's like, it's gonna be crazy. But while we're in the midst of it and we're experiencing it, we're like, but I didn't think it would feel like this, right? So I think maybe Jacqueline too is just like giving yourself a couple of days off to not do anything.
I know, Jill, I need to do that so bad, but I feel like if I do that, I'm going to get behind.
There's always time to do
I know.
your list, right? There's more days ahead of you. But if you're feeling super wiped out and drained and overwhelmed, like, you're not making efficient use of your time as it is because you're so drained.
Right.
So your energy is low, your creativity is low, you're feeling frustrated, distracted. So sometimes the very best thing we can do is do nothing, or do the thing that you know is going to fill you up and give you back your energy, because right now it's very depleted because you just went through what you knew was going to be one of the most stressful, busiest months of your year.
Yeah.
And you're still trying to push through it. So I really think like this weekend you should just do whatever fills your soul, honestly. Like, have some fun, recharge, regroup, and come back with refreshed energy next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jill, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give myself a day off.
Do it. I can't wait to hear what you do. You got to report about it. You have accountability here.
Okay, so it'll have to be Saturday because I have a client call on Sunday. So so I'll be here for the Q&A.
Okay.
So,
and then you're taking the rest of the day off, and you're going to be really
we're having photos done, but I like getting ready for photos. So I feel like that recharges my batteries anyway. So
yeah. No watching training videos, no listening to like podcasts that make you learn something.
Okay.
Okay, Jacqueline, you heard it here, people. Would anyone else have one last question before we log off for the night? Are we all good? Okay, guys. Well, this was a great call. I so appreciate all of you coming, bringing your questions, being so honest and transparent with your struggles and challenges, because we cannot help you if we don't know. So thank you all. And I guess have a great week. This is execution week, right? So we'll see you on Saturday. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.